But I think I just wanted to set a context before we sort of jump into this discussion. Many of you who were there in the afternoon sessions would have seen that the CFO role has evolved over time and is often referred to as Chief Future Officer. And the objective of this panel discussion is really to really understand how the CFO function and finance can leverage modern tools and technology to make this a reality. And as you can see from the introductions that the panel members have given, it's a very, very distinguished panel. And frankly, it's been a privilege to have sort of interacted with them over the last few days. So without further ado, I thought I'll just jump into some of the questions that I wanted to kickstart this discussion. So I think the first question that I wanted to pose to Arpit, and that also can subsequently be sort of followed up by a response from Gopal, is how does the use of various digital and automation tools align with the growing expectations from CFOs, including the fact that we've had a recent set of fairly unprecedented impacts coming out of COVID-19. So first Arpit and then Gopal, please.
Pradeep, thanks for the question. And I think the topic that I want to cover, there are various uses of tools, and I'm sure we'll talk a bit about them. But the topic that I wanted to cover, where I think digital tools and automation has been really critical, is on the elements of forecasting, right? As we talked about during the day today, that the role obviously has moved from long time ago, moved beyond just accounting, reporting, and business partnering, right? And forecasting as an element has become even more complex in the current environment. And I'm talking about even before COVID, where startups and companies now scale exponentially often. So many external factors or competitors or regulation changes put a screeching halt to your businesses, that the ability to not just forecast, but handle forecasts with various scenarios of what things would look like and what kind of decisions need to be taken becomes extremely critical. And, in that environment, trying to, stay on top of that without using tools just on spreadsheets often becomes a challenge that, is probably too tough to handle because we want to be looking at extreme scenarios. We want to be looking at a lot of scenarios. We want to be comparing them against how they're tracking one lever, making sure that all other aspects of your P&L or business are getting reflected. And therefore, I found the use of tools, which help you, run this, in a more efficient manner in terms of allowing and tracking and allowing you to track and monitor different scenarios for the future, have been very, very useful. Rather than kind of using simple spreadsheets to manage that. And I think has been an area where I've been able to use a lot of tools to manage that. And in COVID, that was a huge help because we had to plan for from zero revenue to growth in revenue, right? I mean, when there was lockdown, it could be zero revenue and there could be a massive growth coming back. And what does that mean for your various other elements of the business? So I think that's one part, the use of tools. And related to that on forecasting, I wanted to talk about something which, impacts some of the businesses, not all, but I've been both at American Express and Razorpay, have been part of businesses where there are, millions of transactions a day. And sometimes, those, result in an outcome of, okay, this is the level of, volume that you're seeing in the business. But the underlying trends on, okay, some particular aspect is going up, some particular cohort is going up and down, the naked eye can't really, fully, you can't just look at that data and make that comprehension. So the use of, analysis of large sets of data to produce themes that then can feed to your forecasting is something that I think I found useful. So I think use of, if I can use the word AI here, along with good solid tools to help forecasting is something that I found is something that been very helpful for me. And I think will continue to be something as organizations grow will be useful.
Yeah, thanks, Arpit. I think the two big messages around scenario building and, responding to the sort of almost significant ups and downs in revenues and costs. I think that's the one that you're calling out. And also, of course, the large data sets that, some of the tools like AI can help you. I think that's the two messages I got out of that. So what about you, Gopal? Any sort of response on that?
I think now digital and the automated tools are going to be very, very useful for all the the CFO and the finance function. I believe the traditionally so-called the accounting and the reconciliation and the the expense management and the verification part. I believe this is the one activity which can be taken away through the this particular technology, and the team the down the line can spend more the time in term of the utilizing the data, and that what Arpit has already mentioned about in term of the how smartly you can utilize the dashboard and take the immediate decision. So this is going to be very helpful in term of the fast decision making, and that's what we experience in the during the COVID period, where the productivity is very high, and how you are using the technology and you are taking the fast decisions. Second part, I believe, is the risk management. That's how it comes out to the control mechanism. More you believe, in the trust on the technology, and more you utilize it, and the set the high level of the benchmarks. I believe that's how the technology is going to support you. And the third part, I believe, is very important for any organization, whether it's a large or the small organization, how you integrate your entire finance function, parallel to the operations. So any activity is happening, it has a financial impact. It may be relating to P&L, it may be relating to the balance sheet. But everything is documented immediately and providing you the mirror image. And that's how, whether it's at a, individual SBU level, or whether it is a company as a whole, organization level as a balance sheet, the P&L. So that thing is very fast. And during the COVID, I believe the life of the all CFOs in terms of, behind the cash flow, So the moment you are taking any action, whether it's a manufacturing, whether it's a retail, like I have spent a long time, period with the people in the retail sector. So I have seen that, how you can work using the, the technology in terms of the demand forecasting, what Arpit already mentioned. You can document all the customer behavior, what kind of customer is going to shop with you, what kind of product they are going to shop with you, right? So that's how you can demand forecast, you can, forecast your cash flow, right? And that's how the life become more visible, it's transparent, control aspects are there. So that's how I look at it. And coming to your main question in terms of that, how these the CFO are equipped, and the tools are available. I think a lot of tools are available. It's more about the ERP sort of the environment. So a lot of people among ourselves have grown up and led up in this role, in the ERP environment. But I believe now in this changing scenario, all the startups who are coming up, they are from the day one using the the digital platform. They are very clear that what how you end up your day with the the finance in terms of a cash flow, in terms of your profitability. Everything is reconciled. You are not wasting the more days in terms of any data to get. That's how I look at it.
I think very clear, Gopal. I think obviously some key messages around the fact that it's not only handles some of the areas that Arpit mentioned, but it also covers things like risk management, integration, and also, of course, the demand forecasting part. So I think that's clear. Yeah, you want to say
one more thing I would like to add here is that utilizing the digital platform, that how you can really give a very good impact to the social side. Also, I just share our organization. That during the COVID time, when the government had put money in the Jandan, the Yojana. So in our business, like the banking correspondent individual, utilizing all money as a working capital, and doing the door-to-door visit of the the senior citizens, and just helping them, giving them money, right, and utilizing on their working capital. And it's how digitally settled. That's unique thing which I have experienced.
Very nice. So I think now just sort of jumping lanes, so to speak. Now going over to Gaurav and then Shivaji on a similar question, because we have obviously a group of participants who are at various stages in terms of their journey on automation or ERP and so on and so forth. So I think the key question that I wanted to ask first Gaurav and then Shivaji is in how do the CFOs really make this transition of using technology for their function, and from their experience, because both of them had almost 18-20 years of various experiences, how have they seen these examples that implemented in the organizations that they have operated in, and some simple tips for some of our participants to take away to their respective organizations. So first, Gaurav, please.
Sure. Thank you, Pradeep. No, I think, Pradeep, you touched upon a very important point that this is a journey. And a key part of this journey is first recognizing what stage of evolution the company is in, and equally importantly, the finance function is in. So for me, I think the most important part of my learning so far has been that, yes, there are a lot of tools, technology available. And honestly, I think being data-driven using technology, I would say I think it's now almost a decade since when this came into finance. But I think one key thing I would want to just land with everyone is that, go for it, but first be very cognizant of what is relevant for you, what stage your organization is in, and what stage your function is in, because there is no one size fit all. So I think that's part one. And I'll just make it alive, through some examples. The other thing to be kept in mind is that, again, there is a lot of, there is AI, there is blockchain, there is machine learning. You'll hear all of this, these pitches are made to each one of us every week. But I'm in that school of thought who believes that even in the work that we do today, without even having to touch each of these AIs, blockchains, etc., there is enough and more that can be done. So let me give you some live examples. I think during COVID times, I guess each of the CFOs, one part of their jobs would have become chief payment officers, because that is something managing cash flow liquidity has been a key part. Now, while we looked at it, while we as finance look at it, we look at payment on time, etc. But just very simple analytics can tell us what percentage of our vendor portfolio is sitting in what credit terms. And, by moving a certain percentage of vendors from 30 to 60 or 60 to 90, you could extract cash out of it. Now, it doesn't need too much technology, but it's something where typically for most P2P functions, they would see their rules stopping at making a payment on time and not having a vendor escalation. If I were to give another example, I think again, all corporates have gone down hard on T&E expenses. Yeah. Now, typically in a T&E expense, people would look at, why don't we cut down travel? Why are people traveling, etc. And let's save money. But again, if you do a very simple analytics, and that is something that we've done, to say what percentage of your tickets are booked 7 days in advance, because the fare differential is almost 30%. Now, if you were to just look at that analytics and align your policies to that, you suddenly save 30% without losing or having a situation where people are not going and meeting customers or their clients. Again, another example I'll give is, again, now in a post-COVID, a key focus for everyone is getting back revenue. Now, many of us in finance functions would look at what is the volume we are selling, what's the inventory we are selling, what is the volume growth, price growth. But a very simple analytics which could tell us what percentage of our inventory gets sold at what price could help us in making a decision at a more strategic level to say that there is always only a certain part of inventory which will be discounted. So my point through these examples is that I think the onus is on finance function to say that even with what is available today, I think the hard question to us is, have we extracted it fully? And I think once we do that, there is obviously, there is a journey, there's an evolution where you then take it to the next level and say that what more can I do? And so that's what I would, kind of share with everyone, that be cognizant of where your organization and function is. And equally, there is enough and more juice available even with what you have today, and please extract that fully.
Yeah, thanks. It's very clear. So I think I have a update on this, Shivaji, from your side.
Thanks, Gaurav, and thanks, Pradeep. I will just be more practical in the sense that I'll just talk about the importance of automation, AI, and analytics in my sphere of, you can say, working. Let me also tell you that I am very much touched by Arpit's comment of the transactions and numericity of the transactions. We in Gati, we are the pioneer in the Surface Express and small shipments. And let me tell you the enormity of our data requirements. We handle about 35 to 40,000 dockets a day. So that is about 1 million, you can say, dockets a month. So the requirement of automation and the connected points of, because unless it is automated and properly automated, I don't have a handle on my cash flows. I don't have a handle on my invoicing. Everything is connected. And end of the day, my company will suffer if automation is not driven to the proper perspective. So let me also tell you that what we have done in these particular cases, especially, is that our entire billing is based upon a digital contract basis. We have mapped all our contracts into a digital system. And as I said, that 1 million dockets will eventually evolve into about 1 lakh invoices every month. So unless it is automated, we will not be in a position to do the invoicing on time. And because it is automated and which you can say minimum of human intervention, we have been able to reduce or eliminate entirely the error into the invoicing part of it. In addition to that, we have also introduced you can say the POD, which is ePOD. Because unless in some of our contracts, unless the POD is available, the clients are not going to pay us. So in those cases, we have a ePOD because the moment client accepts that ePOD from the tab, automatically it gets linked to his invoices and eventually the invoices is delivered to him. And coming to the invoicing also, that invoicing also is delivered to him on a mechanized mode through e-invoicing. We are also shooting out payment reminders, that is also automated. We are also our payments are also automated because we are interacting with the bank on a host-to-host environment where no human intervention is there. So practically, you can say the automation is making a company like Gati survive into the the system. Otherwise, it is very difficult. We have got fortunate that we have our own developed Gati Enterprise Management System. We call it GEMS, which has been developed. We are going for an upgrade into that systems now. And being the group CFO for Gati and the Gati group of companies, because we have got a lot of subsidiaries, multiple subsidiaries are there. We are driving for the, you can say, the update 2.0 of GEMS, which will be taking care of a lot of shortcomings in the previous systems. In addition to that, let me also tell something about the auto AI, because what we are doing in this is that the moment a PAN is known to us, and it is already automated in the sense that it is already fed into the system. The moment any person, even if he is not literate enough, if he is in a position to feed up the PAN, automatically for generating a docket, the customer data will be populated for him. So that is what to that extent we have gone. So as I said, I'm confining my, you can say, the disposition amongst the practical experiences and the initiatives what we have taken in Gati and the Gati group of companies to help the business, to help the management, to help the cash flows, to help the invoicing, and to help the auditors also to get into a proper perspective on where we are.
Thanks. I think Shivaji is very, very useful. That reminds me, the example you gave reminds me of one of the experience I had in an organization. And many of you who have worked in manufacturing setups know the challenges around transport bills and freight payments. And typically that's, huge amount of quantity of bills, and there are issues with payments and so on and so forth. So in that organization, I remember what we went into is use the ePOD equivalent to actually generate the bill on behalf of the transporter and then make the payment, because in a way, it's almost like you are creating the bill on his behalf so that you don't get into subsequent issues, which we always had with the receiving of transport bills and making the payments. So a very useful sort of practical point, Shivaji. So now sort of completely changing sort of track. We've had a fair amount of feedback from the CFOs, but let me move to Mayank, and it's almost like a practitioner's view here that I wanted, and he has had a look at the finance function and what it does from an sort of an outside-in perspective. So I wanted his view on what challenges he has seen in the finance function, which commences this journey, and how do we make sure that this is an impactful implementation and there is a sort of positive impact, whether it's positive ROI in financial or non-financial terms. Would like to hear your sort of experience as an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Thanks, Pradeep. So at Itelite, we have worked with hundreds of organizations automating their travel, expense, reconciliation, payments processes, right? And all organizations, as mentioned earlier, are at different parts of the journey. But we have figured out 3 themes of wherever you are to be successful. These are the most common fail points, right? The first one is actually people, right? It's very clear to CFOs that why are we digitizing and what are we doing? Typically, the people in the department are not very clear what is digitization happening, right? And there is sometimes a fear, is digitization leading to cost cutting? And what will happen to my job in an extreme case? Right? So it's very, very important to make clear what is the objective of this initiative, right? One of the examples, by the way, we picked up. So we automate travel and expense, and people who are doing manual travel desk always have this fear that what will happen to me, right? And we sit down and explain to them along with clients that the objective is different. One example Gaurav mentioned earlier, that's one of the KPIs we set. With this system, we will change the people booking 7 days in advance from X to Y, right? That is what we are trying to achieve, and that's what the saving is, not the cost of your job. So very, very important to clarify to people what is the objective. That's one. The second is how do you choose your products, right? All of you have used many, many digital products across multiple different functions, right? There is one end of the approach where you go with a very large company and you take their products across. Now, all of you would know that every one company may not be best in each of those products. So you're stuck with suboptimal products there. There is the other end where you take the best of the breed products, but now they don't talk to each other and the data is still in silos. Right? The way to choose the right products, and the emerging hypothesis now, what most companies are doing is get the best of the breed products with a very, very clear understanding that they should be able to talk to other systems, right? Without that, data doesn't flow across, right? So we offer 3 different products in the market. There's a travel product, expense product, right? And there is a GST optimization product. I would love that if a company chooses all 3, right? All 3 talk together, but we have made sure that if you think we are best of breed in one, and you're working already with expense in someone else, we can talk to them seamlessly, right? So that I think is important for success. Otherwise, data doesn't flow, and your insights, even if you're not doing AI, you are doing simple analytics, doesn't flow. The last one is when you are thinking of digitization, think of a future process and work backwards, right? So one thing which Gopal mentioned, right? Finance runs in parallel to ops when you are digitizing the process. Your future digitized process may look very different from your current process on a computer. We have seen very extreme and sometimes funny examples of that. People automated their expense submission process, but then there was a different process where someone was supposed to check it. The person was printing out receipts, then checking it, and then there was someone doing digitization of those receipts. Right? These are the extreme examples we have seen. So think of what the future process looks like and then digitize it. Right? You would assume, again, being a company which is offering something in travel, right now, there would not be any customers coming to us. But actually in the last 3 months, we have seen an increase in inquiries because there are some CFOs who are saying, we will have to start traveling at some point again. And that travel will look different, right? My manual teams may not be able to handle it because there may be much more security, safety information required while booking, right? So that's something which we are seeing companies thinking forward, but that's, I think, across processes, a very, very important requirement. So 3 things: people buy in on objectives. Second, best of breed systems for each use, which can talk to each other. And third, think of the future digital process versus digitizing the current manual process.
Mayank, on one point, that future is very important for any CFO. And in fact, most of his time should be spent on the strategies he has to be built up, not for today, maybe for next 3 to 5 years.
Absolutely.
I agree with Mayank, what he said. I believe one is the imagination and other is the speed. So when you take your entire business into the, the imagination, and then how you take the, the processes through the technology and the, the digital mode, that's give you the, the speed. So I think that's precisely what Mayank is a very good point to mention.
So I think, Mayank, one thing obviously which I just want to reiterate, which came out in your sort of conversation, is the fact that A, the integration of tools, and B is the future thinking strategy. Because typically what happens is in the, there's a requirement that somebody says, okay, let's put a particular tool in, and it's almost like the tool overpowers the objective of what we're trying to do, and the tool sort of takes over what we're doing. So instead, if you say there is a certain game plan or a certain almost like a digital strategy or an automation strategy that you have, and then what tools fit in where comes in later, that is a more appropriate way of getting success. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Thanks. So I think I can see we are slightly ahead of our time, but I guess we can therefore have some time for questions. I just go around in the same order in which we started and take some sort of closing comments from each, starting with Arpit and then so on. Yeah, Arpit, any closing comments from your side?
Sure, right. I mean, I know I focused on the forecasting in the beginning, right, and some of the sophisticated tools out there. But I think, one reality which I think we all alluded to, that I think the finance function at a bare minimum needs to get rid of all manual workflows, right? From something as simple as ensuring, payroll, vendor payment, expense management, to bank reconciliations, etc. Right? If we are printing and checking these things, there's going to be a challenge. It's definitely would have become a challenge in COVID when everybody is working from home and you can't get a physical signature. So I think that's, if as an organization you haven't completed that journey, I think that's step one, right? Before we talk about all the other, stuff that we refer to, I think that's important. I also want to add that, while a lot of these tools are out there for really large companies, we at Razorpay are actually, for our small and medium businesses, creating these tools so that, the finance head or the entrepreneur who's running a small business also has some of these tools available, so that they don't have to depend on manual processes, which I think everybody needs to move away from.
Gopal, you want a few? So I think you're on mute.
I think we have discussed about the more operational perspective and the utilizing the technology and the digitization. But when we look at it as a CFO, the strategic perspective, I think that's how we look at it, the business side, and that's how you look at it yourself as a co-piloting and the taking the entire business into the imagination and how the new ideas coming up. And then you take up your finance team completely, aligned with it. So my one take to, just share that there are a lot of, the CFO outsourced activities, So where the new startup coming up and they want to take advantage of the, the technology or the, align their activities. So that's how they should look at it, instead of jumping into that investments. And, first they should understand and then take the advantage and the way they grow and, they can build their own system. That's how I can say.
Gaurav?
Sure. I think just a couple of adds from my end. One, I think a large part of the digitization agenda starts from, I think, finance giving up its inhibitions. My experience across 3 organizations has been that the non-finance functions have always been ahead of finance in terms of adapting to technology. 10 years back, no one would have thought of digital media. Today, digital media is equal to traditional media. And I think marketing function has really evolved itself. Marketing function today has data scientists. So I think one challenge to us at the cost of sounding provocative is that, it's important for finance leaders to be a bit brave about it and not worry about that fear of giving away Excel. I think that has to go away. That's one. Number 2, I think in whatever we design, I think it has to be something which works for us and for our partners. If I give a very live example, we at Oyo, we deal with a whole host of partner ecosystem. Now, when we are making our reconciliation statements, We're trying to make it in a manner where it works for me, but equally works for the other guy. The guy could just take it and use it for his own accounting as well. Because suddenly the benefit of technology is not limited just to a function or the organization, but you are able to then pass on the benefit to the wider ecosystem that is working for you. And that in turn creates its own stickiness. So I think these two would be the key, closing comments from my end.
Thanks, Gaurav. Shivaji?
Yeah, in fact, I just wanted to share one anecdote on this particular point on automation. See, in Gati, we are almost there in all the districts in India. There are more than 700 districts in India, and other than 2 districts, we are there everywhere. And it is more than around 800 or 850 establishments where we are there. And traditionally, the concept was that every establishment will have an accountant. And when I joined Gati about 1.5 years back, so my total workforce, I'm only talking about the business accounts, what we call it, which gives support to the business. I've got a separate team for internal audit. I've got a separate team for corporate reporting, treasury, and also so on and so forth. I'm talking about which gives support to the business. That itself was more than 200 in strength, about 1.5 years back. So that because of automation and because of, you can say, a bit of planning and because of a bit of strategic initiatives that has been taken and with a lot of what I shared with you, we have been able to bring it down to about 130 now. And in future, in next couple of months, we are going to bring that particular team size to less than 100. So this is a big, you can say, achievement for the people, for the company, per se, on the cost reductions and the other initiatives being taken. So what I'm saying is that automation has helped a company like Gati to, you can say, deliver and to be more productive.
Understood. I think we'll come back to this productivity point a little later as well. I think there could be also questions around it. Mayank, your closing comments?
So overall, I think combining the themes which I've already covered, right? I would just urge all CFOs to imagine the future and raise the bar for themselves, right? Look at all the things which your function is doing and which you can contribute to. Each of them ask, does it need to be this way or is there a better way to do stuff? One is digital, second is smarter, right? Within digital, can you be smarter? There are more than enough products out there, right? Which possibly can make it digital and smarter, whether that's a travel desk or that's an expense submission, whether that's GST reconciliation. These are the things we deal with day in, day out. Most CFOs we have spoken to, the first reaction is travel. That's how it works, right? There is a desk required. Right? So challenge across every area that this can be digital and smarter, and then you will find the right solutions.
Clear. Thanks, Mayank. So I can see, I guess we have some time for some Q&A, and I can see some questions in the chat. So I'll try and assign it to one or two of the speakers to respond. So I think one is the question on use of forecasting tools in the respective organization. And of course, it could be your earlier organization as well. Just request the panel speaker. So I'll request Arpit and Gaurav to please maybe Arpit, you could give an indication of what are the tools you are using or you have used.
Yeah, so a couple of tools. Look, in most ERP tools have some kind of forecasting modules, but I think there are some more customized tools out there which are specific. Two tools that I've used in the past. One is called TM1. I think it was eventually acquired by IBM and Anaplan, right? I mean, these are the two tools which provide some sophisticated capabilities that I would suggest you explore.
Right.
Yeah, in our case, we use Hyperion for planning purposes.
Understood. Okay. Yeah. So I think this question maybe I'll ask Gopal because he's wears sometimes both hats, right? The CEO and CFO. So I think here the question that is coming is it right to look at cost expense instead of looking for more revenues to enhance top line? And there is always a question to the CFO comes in with a cost mindset and not the revenue mindset. So what's your take, Gopal? You're on mute, Gopal.
See, here I would like to tell you that we have to look at the cost in two parts. One is a good cost, another is a bad cost. That's first of all, we should look at it. And we have to identify it based on the productivity. So that's how you have to differentiate the cost. And obviously, when you look at it, any division, the profitability. So cost is to incur to generate the revenue. So you have to focus on the revenue side first. That's how I look at it. eliminate all the bad costs. So if there are assets and that assets are not really productive and not giving a return, you have to move out from all those assets. If any expenses which you are spending, you have a conviction that it's going to generate the revenue, not today, but tomorrow. So that's not the expense, that's investment. That's how you should look at it and, move ahead.
Shivaji, any further points on this?
See, the people cost and the cost reduction is not to be frowned upon. It's part of the life, actually. It is, in fact, it should be actually a practice, a habit. The point here is that it is not only like reducing people, it is also making the people more productive. And see, in our case, what we have done is that all these reduction, what I referred to, is not at the cost of asking people to leave. We have retained them and put them in other business activities. So that also has been part of our journey. So point is that it is not only about asking people to go, it is about retaining people and putting them in a different productive use. And that's also is very important matter for all the organizations.
Yes, I think this point came up when Mayank was also talking about, the challenges for finance function when any automation program starts. So frankly speaking, my personal experience in this is that as long as the organization is growing and the revenue growth is there is always opportunities for the people to be redeployed elsewhere. So what we are doing in the process of automation is not, the objective is not to cut jobs, but to make the jobs more higher skilled and better, and maybe even get in some more of work-life balance. So I think that is the objective with which you start. And of course, you'll get
more error-free. I would say more error-free.
Absolutely. So I think that's the way to look at it. So I don't think anybody starts on a program on automation saying that, reducing headcount is the objective. Rarely will you get success only with that objective.
I mean, if I can, crack a, I mean, I know one of the things when people talk about, technology and productivity, right? Joke that, you can build roads still using the old fashioned way, using shovels, right? And clearing the path through shovels, right? It's going to take few years longer. Nobody considers that as an option anymore, right? When you have good machines available to move things faster, right? So think of it as productivity, right? And, you have a road that leads you to places. It creates far more opportunities than, what exists without it.
I think it's an opportunity where, you think tank with the entire human resources and you come out with the ideas, what additional things you can do in the organization, So that's how you should look at it. And secondly, I think Shivaji already mentioned in terms of, utilizing for some other function. Like in our organization, if I look at the finance team side, they have, moving towards the financial controller and the, towards driving the business side. And they are supporting to the, the business leads. And when you ask the operation side, so during the COVID period, when the entire thing, locked down and closed, you won't believe that they, as a essential services, that banking and ATM is the services through the franchisee network. What typically we are doing more than 10,000 franchisee pan India up to the rural, the pocket. So they are just coming out and, helping the, the local citizens over there in terms of providing the, through the partnering with the Amazon, that how you deliver the essential products in terms of the banking side. So there is a use of the human resource when, look at it and try to identify some new work.
Thanks. There's a question here. I hoping I'm understanding it correctly. How do we compare with the developing economies in these difficult times? I don't know. It's in the context of automation. So maybe Mayank, you can take that question and we'll see whether we're answering the gentleman's question.
So let me try to understand the question first, right? I think the question is, in terms of automation, how is India in comparison with other developing economies?
Correct.
I think overall, in terms of tools, right, India is at par and ahead with developing economies based on the trends we have seen. So we work with customers across India, Southeast Asia, North America. With the finance teams, we do see that the tools with the Indian companies are more and better than other economies. However, their usage is questionable. Right? Many companies we do see in India that and I'll go back to the points I made earlier, that objectives of those tools are not clear, right? So they end up only digitizing a part of the process, and then there is still a lot of human work involved, right? Because in some of, even within developing economies, where the costs are a little higher on the human side, they have been a forcing mechanism for people to use the tools across the chain, right? But it doesn't have to be driven by human costs, right? The usage of tools can be better in India.
Absolutely. Sachin, I think the next question, Mayank, you can take the next question. There's a question, Sachin Vora. I think if you summon substance, looks to be that, it's almost like the point that you were making about how to get value for investment and a successful, choice of a automation program in a company.
Sure.
So would you like to reiterate the points?
I think overall, I reiterate the 3 points, but first just reacting to one thing written there, right? Once bitten, then twice shy. That is a tendency, again, we do see quite a lot, especially in India, right? And that's where my point of CFOs and finance functions should raise their whole bar, right? Is it that the digitization was bad, or did we miss something? Let's do a root cause analysis of that, right? Maybe our evaluation factors and implementation needed to be better. And that's where the 3 points which are most important. First, the communication of the objective of the tool has to be very clear. I think everyone sitting in this panel obviously feels that tools are not to cut cost, but to increase efficiency. Communicate that very well to the team. Second, while evaluating the tools, take the best of breed. There is a saying which says nobody gets fired for buying IBM. I think nobody gets fired for buying wrong tools. Just have the right evaluation criteria. The tools which are best of breed and talk to each other. And third, think of a future process. Don't think of digitizing your current process. Think of a future process, right? Does it really need to be non-digital, right? It has been done that way for 40 years. Doesn't mean it has to be that way. So challenge yourself, challenge the status quo, and possibly there is something out there which can solve it.
Yeah, thanks, Mayank. I think we are effectively run out of time. So I'll just make some concluding remarks and then hand it over back to Sri Lakshmi. So I think what I have sort of summarizing here is using tools, technology, data to drive business is as much a mindset shift as it is a shift in skill. And it is important that the finance function doesn't just chase technology just because it is fashionable and seems to be the it's the in thing to do. It should be tailored to the business need and critically meet the requirements, metrics of the organization, including having a more sort of futuristic program. And it should be a program which is looking at a long-term strategy and then where the tools fit in, rather than just doing bits and pieces. And what our experience, the panel experience is there, and even myself, is that where it is implemented well, it can significantly make a difference in the quality of the job that the finance professional and his team is doing. And I'll just conclude by stating some of my favorite quotes on data, which is that in God we trust, and all others, please bring your data. And the other one is, data is the new oil. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Sri Lakshmi. Thank you very much, panel, for an engaging discussion.